So judgment has been reserved in the ANC's urgent application to overturn the IEC's decision to register the uMkhonto weSizwe party. The governing party wants the registration of the MK party to be reviewed and ruled as unlawful. Now, the two parties and the IEC's legal counsel presented their arguments on the matter yesterday before the Electoral Court sitting in Bloemfontein. Now, scores of ANC and MK party members came out in support outside the court. Let's weigh in on the matter. We are now joined by ANC Spokesperson Mahlengi Bhengu-Motsiri. Thank you so much for joining us, and a good morning to you. We really do appreciate your time.
Good morning. I just want to check if you are able to see me.
Yes, we can see you very, very clearly. Everything is on point, so we can go ahead with the discussion. I think you've had the night, I think, as a party to certainly reflect on what has come out of the Electoral Court. What is the next step now for the African National Congress?
The new step for the African National Congress?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, okay. We, of course, judgment is reserved. We will await the outcome of the court process, but we are proceeding to KZN next week to go and fight the one significant fight, which is about the trademark of the ANC, the logo, the emblem, the name, as well as the use of colors of the ANC, such as the newly set up Women's League of the MK Party that uses the Women's League uniform. We're going out to go and fight that because those are the heritage assets of the African National Congress. uMkhonto weSizwe Party, uMkhonto weSizwe itself is an integral and was an integral part of the legacy of the ANC. In fact, it reported to the National Executive Committee of the ANC since it was established in 1963.
Yeah, did you have these issues around the logo of and even the naming of the party in September 2023? The reason why I raised this question is because of the legal representation of the MK party and the argument they put forward before the Electoral Court, essentially saying that the ANC was aware since early September 2023 that the IEC had taken a decision to accept the registration of the MKP. He puts forward, of course, that the ANC only challenged the decision after Zuma was announced in mid-December that he would endorse and campaign for the party. So has this been an issue for you, the logo and naming of the party, since September?
Well, of course. I mean, at the time, it was registered by one Jabulani Khumalo. And, of course, we needed to follow the processes with the IEC, which we did. If you go through the time capsule in relation to this entire matter, and I think this is somehow lost to some of our South Africans, it's not as if the ANC was sitting on its laurels. We had to study that matter. We had to approach our advisors, including our legal counsel. We had to write to the IEC. And the idea that approaching the Electoral Court was occasioned by Mr. Zuma coming into the picture as somebody saying, I will support this new MK party, and then later on emerging as its leader, has less to do with the fact that this is a matter that we were fighting anyway. And the name uMkhonto weSizwe is registered. Its copyrights belong to the ANC as we speak. So we are looking forward to the High Court challenge next week in order to ventilate this and provide evidence of what we are saying.
Well, of course, a legal representative for the MK party has said that, and this is his claim in the Electoral Court yesterday, essentially that the ANC is threatened by Zuma's endorsement of the MKP. I mean, what do you say to that officially as a party to the public and the electorate?
If you could amplify your question, I'm struggling a little bit to hear.
Essentially, Advocate Dalimpofu in the court, in the Electoral Court yesterday, saying that this move by the ANC is because the party is threatened by Zuma's endorsement of the MKP. What do you say to that?
We have no reason to be threatened by Mr. Jacob Zuma's involvement with the party. There can be anything wrong about that assertion. It's not the first time that there is a breakaway or a splinter from the ANC. And what did we do when that happened? When the Congress of the People was formed, when the EFF was formed. When the EFF was formed, they did not use any of the symbols of the ANC. They carved out their own identity. The Congress of the People, we also went and challenged that. We did not succeed. We then went to fight the battle on the ground, which is where we are strongest as the African National Congress. But of course, we do have the right, like any other South African, to exercise our rights in law in as far as assets of the ANC. It is the first time that somebody steals the heritage assets of the ANC in a manner in which it is doing. Why is it being done? Is to sow confusion among our members and supporters with the assertion that I am still part of the ANC and I'm rescuing the ANC. By the way, the constitution of the ANC does not allow anything of that nature. If you read out the oath that you take as a member of the ANC, it's only the ANC and the ANC alone that you pay allegiance to. So there can be no truth to that kind of assertion. If Mr. Jacob Zuma had walked away from the ANC, peacefully set up his own party in his name or any other name other than stealing the assets and the heritage assets of the ANC, we would not be going to court. We owe it to many MK cadres that fell on the battlefield, so that on the battlefield, so that today South Africa can talk about the idea of freedom and the practice of freedom, constitutionalism, the rule of law. We exercised exactly what we fought for.
Yeah, I'm looking at the statement that the party released yesterday, a statement, of course, by the SG of the African National Congress, wherein he goes on to say that over the past decade, right-wing tea parties led by right-wing nationalists and reckless populists have become commonplace in politics. He said these leaders, and I imagine here he's speaking about former President Jacob Zuma, these right-wing ultra-nationalists are populists, they are anarchists, anti-constitutionalists, they are talking about the party. They are a charismatic one-person show populist party. They are dictatorial, authoritarian, big man syndrome. I'm using words that are coming out of the statement. They run fear-based mobilization and fear-based negative campaigns, which are racist, sexist, Afrophobic, homophobic, ethno-nationalist, tribalist. And some of this list really goes on of what the party has said in the statement by the SG. And I saw this and I thought to myself, if that is the case, why then has the African National Congress not taken the step then of expelling President or former President Jacob Zuma from the party, as you have done with Mervyn Dirks?
Well, we had to invoke the constitution of the ANC. Any responsible organization doesn't act in haste. As you know, at the moment, Mr. Jacob Zuma has been suspended from the ANC. Charges preferred against him, read out to him, sent through to him. He hasn't responded. And of course, we leave this to the National Disciplinary Committee to come to a conclusion and make a recommendation to the National Executive Committee that is upcoming. Secondly, we talk about ethno-nationalism, we talk about homophobia, we talk about ageism. And there are the examples galore of the utterances by Mr. Jacob Zuma talking about pregnant women having to be young women who fall pregnant having to be taken to Robben Island. I don't know what that is if that's not extreme right-wingism. We talk about somebody who gets surprised that people sing a Sesotho song right in Durban or right in Pietermaritzburg, when South Africa is such a diverse country with all 11 languages, and it is not unheard of for somebody in KZN to sing a Sesotho song. It is for you to make up what all of these things constitute in terms of issues of ethnicism. There are so many examples that we can speak about that really speak to taking us back in terms of the agenda of societal cohesion, the agenda of embracing diversity that have been led by the ANC-led government to this day. As I speak, if you look at our candidate list to Parliament, they are a representation of that kind of eclectic mix of the diversity of South Africans. The members of the queer community are represented in our list. National groups are represented in our leagues. When the SG talks about scaremongering, you also know you've got clips to the effect of MK Party not being condemned by Mr. Jacob Zuma when they threatened violence and insurrection should Mr. Jacob Zuma not receive a 2/3 majority. Right. So if those things are not scaremongering, I don't know what is.
I want to switch gears a little bit and just move towards the National Assembly. You've got, of course, the National Prosecuting Authority's Investigative Directorate conducting a raid on the home of the Parliamentary Speaker, Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula. It's not a great picture for the electorate in a voting year. I mean, how does the African National Congress then explain that to the electorate as they decide who they send into the National Assembly when the governing party's very own speaker has raids taking place in her home?
We have always said that if there's any alleged wrongdoing on the part of any of our members, regardless of their rank within the party or in society, the rule of law must kick in. There is nothing different in this instance. That's the first point I'd like to make. We've also been on record, even in our manifesto, underscoring the importance of resuscitating law enforcement and judicial institutions given enough powers to help fight the demon of corruption. It is in our manifesto, and so we cannot look the other way when one of our own is involved. We trust that the relevant law enforcement agencies, we will do this work swiftly so that we could get to the bottom of it. Secondly, I find it very curious that Mr. John Steenhuisen can come onto your platform and talk about corruption. Just yesterday, we were reading out on how his campaign to be elected, the leader of the DA, was financed via a slush fund. I actually don't think that he's qualified morally to speak on this matter. And that is why when we say corruption is pervasive in society, it's not just an ANC matter. And where our members are found to have been corrupt and been proven by the courts of law to be corrupt, we have taken steps to remove them from public responsibilities of leadership. But they've got to be convicted, they've got to be charged by the courts of law, not through a witch hunt. Where there's clear evidence that the rule of law has come to a particular conclusion about their conduct, we've been swift as part of our renewal agenda to say they need to step aside.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you so much for speaking to us. Mahlengi Bhengu-Motsiri there, who is the ANC spokesperson.